You're listening to Zoo Nation.
Ready? You have the cameras rolling?
Come on, man.
Welcome to Zoo Nation. It would help if I remember to mute the mic or unmute it. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are covering the 2024 election. My name is Josh.
I'm Nathan.
We are very excited to talk about the 2024 election. Very excited to be back with you. On the Electoral College vote, so far, Trump is at 101, Kamala Harris at 71. It's a very tight race in Georgia right now. It's looking like Georgia, Trump is at 55%. Harris is at about 44. We're getting this from the New York Times and also the Associate Press. We're very excited to cover this with you guys. Very important to talk about this. We're also planning to have other people on. We're planning to have Samuel the Gunsmith on as well, talking to him about just his thoughts on this historic evening. And also we want to give you our thoughts. And so really quickly, I think it would be appropriate for us to begin with just what I think. And then I'll try and give it very quickly. And then I'll have Nathan tell us his thoughts. And then after that, we're hopefully going to have Samuel on here and we can listen to what he thinks. So what I think is going to happen tonight, if I were to make any kind of a prediction, we're not going to know the results tonight. I would say whenever you look at 2016, we knew very quickly. We knew almost right away. In fact, we knew early morning of the following Wednesday. We knew about 2 a.m. that Trump had secured victory against Hillary Rodham Clinton, a.k.a. Satan. And so we, like I just dropped it casually. And so we saw that happen. And then in 2020, it was a very different story. In 2020, unfortunately, we didn't know until next Friday. And so I think that if I were to make a prediction, it's going to be kind of in between. That what's going to happen is Trump will win by a small margin, if I were to guess. I think that if we have a free and fair election, that it'll be by a big margin. I think that when you look at irregularities, there's probably going to be a narrow win by Mr. Trump. And so that's what I would say. I think that that's a reasonable expectation. So I will say that. To continue, though, I will add that we're not going to know Friday this week. I think we're going to know Thursday at the latest. I would say probably sometime Wednesday or Thursday we will know the results of this election. So maybe tomorrow or maybe Thursday. Yeah, I agree. So he said it's stupid. It is stupid. We should know right away. There should be rules in place where they count and do not stop counting. We'll go into that in a little bit. But before we bring Samuel on, I want to hear more of your thoughts about this election in general, but also any predictions you care to make, Nathan.
I mean, my prediction, as usual, is going to be the pessimistic side of things, and I say Kamala's going to win. And unfortunately, I think it's mainly because of the abortions on the ballot thing, and I think the women are going to come out in droves, or came out in droves, because I guess most of them are, except for like California, closed by now. And there's probably still some holes open, but anyway, that, and also I think that some men just aren't going to want to argue with their girlfriends, spouses, whatever. And yeah.
So you're saying that beta men vote for Kamala Harris?
That or just don't go out and
you
vote.
heard it here first.
Yeah, 100%. That's also what I'm saying. Now, if it's a, let's say, fair election, unlike 2020, I could see Trump winning in, unlike you, not necessarily in a landslide. I'd see it a closer margin because I still see the country pretty divided.
Of course it is.
Yeah. So I if it's fair, I would see closer margins personally. But I mean, again, I'm hoping for the best, but I'm suspecting Kamala.
You know, before we even began this live stream, I noted, because he said, well, I kind of hate to be the pessimist. And I said, the thing about it is, I was thinking, oh, well, Joe Biden is going to remain the Democrat nominee for 2024 because I think they're going to make him push through it.
Yep.
And you said, nah, man, it's not going to be him. Well, it would turn out that Josh was wrong and Nathan was right.
Yeah.
So there's been times I've definitely been wrong before. So not a big surprise there. All right, give us 1 minute. We have a couple of people in the chat saying, Josh, Nathan, hello, gentlemen. That is from Monty7. You've met Monty7 in real life, I believe.
Probably.
And then we don't know how long it'll take because we don't know how many ballots they need to stuff in the boxes. Gotcha. Yeah.
This is also true.
All right. Well, it is looking like Samuel is on standby and ready to join the stream. Samuel the gun. Also been on my stream before. I've had Samuel on the Fog in the World. He's also come on a stream we've done. Talk to Samuel the Gunsmith. So let me bring him on board. Hold on 1 minute. Samuel, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Welcome. And say hello once more to Nathan. You've seen Nathan before. You've all seen him both
What's up, Nathan?
through stream, and you've also seen him in real life. So,
Yep.
so thank you for agreeing to come on the stream, first of all. Tell us, if you're comfortable, who you voted for and why, and what your predictions are.
Of course I voted for Trump and Vance. I'm not going to vote for the cackling hyena from Lion King.
Okay, you had actually shared also how you voted in a congressional race. Who did you vote for and why for our state of South Carolina in the House of Representatives?
Oh yeah, I voted. I can't remember the name. I voted for the Constitution Party. I refuse to vote for Timmons anymore.
Yeah, Nathan just said I'm having to mute the mic so there's not a horrible echo. You voted for Mark Hackett as well. So did I. There's three of us. So three's a crowd. So what were your reasons, Samuel? Tell us more about your vote for Timmons, or your abstaining from voting for Timmons, and why you voted for the Constitution Party.
I mean, that was the next best on there. I'm not going to vote for. Not going to put a Democrat in that seat, but I'm definitely not going to let Timmons keep that seat without a fight.
Yeah, I think that probably the biggest thing that broke the camel's back, so to speak, on Timmons of South Carolina. For those of you who don't know, he represents the upstate of South Carolina, District 4. Timmons, unfortunately, is not an America firster when it comes to foreign policy in any way, shape, or form. He's also done nothing on the border. And one thing that I saw, and I actually was there physically when he debated Michael LaPierre and George Abu Zaid and Mark Burns. Mark Burns ended up running this election cycle in the primary against Sherry Biggs, which is an election that's happening right now. Sherry Biggs against her Democrat challenger. And I didn't like Timmons because when he was confronted about how he had basically passed big spending bills, sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, he stood there and said, well, come on, guys, we got to do this. And when he was confronted about just his, generally speaking, bad record when it comes to his voting, he didn't have anything to say. He just kind of stood there and postured and said, kind of like, it was actually like listening to a Kamala Harris speech of, well, I worked hard, I had a difficult job, and I'm doing the best I can. And it was just empty rhetoric. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that you didn't vote for him. I'm glad. I really don't care for voting third party anymore, but given what the options were, it was the best I had, which is to vote for Hackett against Timmons. Right. So, I think something we can talk about here, I wanted to talk about this, the three of us. I think, first of all, Samuel, before we even go to what I was going to say, who do you think will win and how do you think the selection is going to go?
I mean, if they're right with what I'm seeing right now on Fox News with some of the states, it's going to be pretty much the standard that we saw in 2016 and 2020 with just certain states swinging the way they're supposed to, and then other states, being tight races. I'm more interested to see which ones are going to flip.
Yeah, I will say that you're sitting here telling me I'm getting the names mixed up, but Nathan was telling me that Florida's been called for Trump, which was faster than I expected, but that's good. It shows how DeSantis has turned it very red. But Georgia is actually looking kind of competitive at the moment. It's got over 60% reporting in, and at the moment, we were looking at data, Trump was ahead. So
but it's going to take longer for some of the blue counties. Fulton County is closing later because of the bomb threats that they had earlier in the day.
What do you think about that?
That's about as suspicious as Nevada, Washington State, and Oregon already activating National Guard as of yesterday. Sunday. They activated them Sunday night.
We all know what happened in Fulton County. We all know that it was Russia's fault.
Well, I'd like to see them pin the Russians for burning ballot boxes in Alaska, because that's the thing that happened around 5 o'clock today.
News indeed. Although I can't say I'm really surprised. It's disappointing that this is what American politics has come down to. Who do you think is doing this crap, calling in bomb threats and burning ballot boxes? Do you think that it's basically our own government, or do you think that it's bad actors on the left?
It's probably a mix. You got your mixture of your people that just want chaos. You saw that in 20. We saw that in 2020. Any excuse to go tear down your city. I mean, look at LA. The Dodgers finally win a World Series. What do? They break into stores and steal TVs to celebrate the Dodgers winning a World Series.
I want to watch the next game that badly, I guess. Not even a good team. Whenever I think so, let's pivot a little bit because you kind of talked about what you think is going on with the election. Let's say this: I think it's important to reflect, and it could just be Nathan and I reflecting on this, but I wanted to include you on Trump is going to be done with presidential politics either this week or depending on what happens after. If there's a lot of challenges, it may be by, I think safe to say, if things happen similarly to 2020 as far as Trump trying to fight it, Trump will be done with presidential politics January of next year. That's A. Or B, he will be president and he will not leave office until January of 2029. And I think it's important for us to reflect on his presidency just a little bit and what it's meant to us. So one thing that I was talking about with someone before I came on air was what it meant for Trump to be elected in the first place. I mean, you have this guy who did not serve in the military. He did not serve as governor or senator, and yet he became president. He was a true outsider. And I will say that I think if he only gets one term, and also if his reelection and then possible tonight, if he loses again, it will seem to show outsiders, any future political outsiders, that it's just not possible. That it's not, that in other words, outsiders are not able to remain in office. They will be ousted from office by bad actors, by the deep state who doesn't like them. So I think that's one thing that it shows us. The other thing that it shows us, other things that Trump has done. You got to think, before Trump became president, the last Republican president we had was George W. Bush. And Donald Trump said in George W. Bush's Republican Party, Iraq was a big mistake. We should never have been there. We should have taken the oil while we were there. And he got booed on stage for it. So he really came in as a countercultural force, for better or for worse, however you feel about it. I happen to see it as a very positive change. He's really had lasting change in the Republican Party. And so here's the point. Regardless, the 2028 election will be in some sense, post-Trump election. Either Trump will be getting ready to be a former president. He will be in his second term, getting ready to be done because he cannot run for a third term, or he will be a has-been who has lost 2020 and 2024, and people will be looking at him in terms of who he will endorse. So the 2028 election is going to be important as well. But let's just talk about the future of the Republican Party. I guess my question is, do you see the Republican Party actually taking these changes to heart? Or do you think the Republican Party is going to go back to the same old of Asa Hutchinson, Chris Christie, and I can't even say her name, Nikki Haley? What do you think?
Why would you even say her name?
So
we don't want to talk about her. We finally got rid of her as a governor. I think we're done with her. But it's a split. It's the party is splitting just like the party split after the Civil War.
I think that's right. Nathan, what do you think about what I said?
I can kind of agree with that.
You think it's splitting?
Yeah, party's definitely splitting for sure. We've got these Bush-based Republicans, more so, I guess, quote-unquote moderates, who are now more so Democratic side of things, who want to say there's a happy middle, and there's not anymore, really. Just with how far the Democratic Party has gone. I think there's a split in both parties. I think there's a split in the Democratic Party of we want to go so far left. Harris, example. And then there's some that, like, I don't know, Clinton, I guess. I don't know. That's the best I can give, I guess, for the left. And then, then you've got MAGA Republicans, which I think is where majority of the Republicans are going with that. And then you got these.
Well, we knew that was going to happen.
Bush moderates, I guess, quote unquote. So,
right. I will say I don't know you said something that was interesting. I don't know how many moderate Democrats are left. I think that they're probably serving in local races, maybe some state races, or but there's not that many that are actually big names. I mean, when you look at most of them in the House, most of them in the Senate, they are complicitly okay with the far left, or they openly endorse it publicly. And so I don't really see a whole lot of moderating force in the Democrat Party. There's probably some, but it's very quiet. The Republican Party is more outspoken as far as, what they think of Donald Trump, especially you got, clowns like the Lincoln Project and stuff like that, who I just don't have any kind words for. I mean, other than just to call them hacks and clowns, there's really nothing else to say. So, well, regarding tonight, we, as some of you have seen, that we have up on screen right now, it looks like that Trump is 109 electoral college votes. Harris is at 71. I have another thing.
No, you need to update that, Josh. I'm looking at Fox News right now. They got Trump at 178 and Harris at 113.
Okay, well, we will update that. So 178 to 113. Nice. And it will be updated. Yeah, I think it's important to reflect on that because there's going to be big decisions that you and I make. We're the next running generation. You and I and Nathan were all of voting age in 2016, and so this was a significant moment for us that is coming to a close. And how we vote will matter for the future of this party and just for the people around us as well. We influence those around us, etc. And so I think that it's important to reflect on this. And the other thing that I would say is, where does the money go? Does the big money finally say, for the Republican Party I'm talking about, the Michael Watleys of the party, and I would even argue that Lara Trump is pretty establishment. Will they then finally say, well, you know what, we don't like MAGA, but we got to support it? Or will they continue to fight it like a cancer basically just resist it as much as they can? And I really think it's going to be the latter. I don't see many of these moderate Republicans moving to the MAGA part of the party. I think they will continue to fight it. And the thing about it is, if Trump getting almost assassinated is not enough to bring you over to MAGA, there's really nothing else that we can say that'll actually convince you. That's what I would say. So, in terms of just what you think was important for this election, what issues do you think were the most important? I would say, in my perspective, probably immigration and the economy were the top two issues for why people voted. Samuel, what do you think?
Money. Can't afford gas, can't afford groceries, and then your paycheck doesn't get bigger. It gets smaller.
Yeah, I've been told even by people that are apolitical, people that are not highly ideological, don't keep up that much with politics, and they'll say, look, I can't do this. I can't justify voting for more of the same, which is what I would be doing if I voted for Harris, so I got to vote for Trump. And I respect that. I mean, there's people that they don't really listen to podcasts like ours that much. They don't even really listen to talk radio. But then they look at their paycheck, they look at their tax rate and say, we've got to have change. It would make no sense if you've got a failing coach and his offensive coordinator is awful as well. You wouldn't come in as a new coach or as a new owner of the team and fire the head coach and leave the offensive coordinator. You would get rid of both. And that would be the equivalent. To keep Harris would be like getting rid of the head coach and saying to the offensive coordinator, we're going to make you the new coach, and they're just going to make the problem way worse. And that's what I think a lot of people in this country are seeing when they look at Harris, because the thing about it is, as bad as it is, that was probably the worst candidate that the Democrats went with, because they could have gone with anyone else that would have had more charisma, that wouldn't have done this odd laughing, that wasn't going to spend her time either drunk or stoned. And the thing about Joe is, as awkward as he is, as often as his gaffes are, he still has some weird charisma of, he's Grandpa Joe from Scranton. Harris doesn't even have that. She just has no charisma at all. She makes me think of Hillary Clinton that way, because Hillary Clinton was not charismatic either. It was just, I'm a woman, it's my turn. So that's what I will say in terms of that. I think we had another comment come in. We had have another one here from guys, I guess it's his initials, maybe BB. What's up, fellas? This is American Neo-Reactionary from my completely anonymous YouTube channel. Oh, okay. Yeah, he's been on my podcast. Welcome, you based Chad. Thank you for watching the stream on Zoo Nation. Appreciate you watching. We're gonna now. I'll talk a little bit while Nathan sort of updates me on numbers and some numbers for what's going on with the election. as far as that goes. One race that I kind of wanted to watch, it'll be interesting to see because of Texas, frankly, is being invaded. The whole country is being invaded, but Texas too. I'm wanting to watch the Cruz race against, I think his name's Allred.
Aldred, yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see how that race goes. If it's close, if Cruz wins pretty solidly because he's been in
Last time Texas just flashed, he had the lead, but they hadn't called it in his favor yet. It is very close. 49-47. So Cruz is hanging on.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not surprised.
I know, but if that's only a 3% margin, 49-47, that's a 2 to 3% margin.
Yeah, but it's hard. I mean, it's really hard for Texas because you've got the old stock Texans, so to speak, the actual Texans who fought at the Alamo and their descendants, is what I'm trying to say. And then you've got these people that have moved into the country illegally. And even those who have come in legally, that's the thing that's important to think about, even just the legal immigrants. Their children are going into the public school system and being indoctrinated, even if they've come in, illegally back at the time of Reagan or something and got amnesty. These people are being indoctrinated to hate our values and hate our country. So it's not like, just because they came in illegally but got amnesty, that all's been forgiven and they're going to turn into George Washington and Thomas Jefferson's direct descendants. That's just not how this works. And we need to have a country of law and order. And so I would just say, in terms of Cruz, he may win by a very thin margin. And if Allred does beat Cruz, it'll signal very clearly to the country that immigration is a huge issue. But if Trump also becomes president, let's say Cruz loses, but Trump wins, the likelihood of Cruz getting back in there is very high because Trump's going to have some very strong immigration policy to make sure that doesn't happen again. This invasion actually stops. Probably the single issue he talked about the most in 2024's election cycle, and I don't really blame him. That in Afghanistan and the wars have been the stuff he's talked about the most. So that's what I would say as far as Trump and Cruz. It is also interesting to see because the two of them had a very adversarial relationship for a long time, with Trump calling him Lion Ted and stuff. But now they get along pretty well. And Cruz's record is not perfect, but there have been certain issues he has tried to go after in terms of corruption, especially corruption in our government, especially the administrative state with the CIA and the FBI. There's a lot of videos of him grilling people. The problem with that is I just always wonder when's the action going to take place. And unfortunately, with Biden in the White House, the DOJ is compromised. It's in the hands of the deep state. The only way these people are actually going to get fired or investigated is with Trump in the White House. That's the way I see it. So, trying to see other current information.
Fox has the 195 Trump, still 113 Harris.
Okay, so Trump's gone up even more. I am not that surprised.
Michigan's close.
And what's Fox News showing?
They had Harris at 52, but Trump's like at 40, almost 45%. So he's got like a 12-point margin to make up. They haven't called it yet.
All right, we're gonna have those numbers up for you. Well, I'm trying to think in terms of the rest of the election cycle and the debates. It's important to think too, in terms of the Republican Party and the leadership. There hasn't been a lot of support from the Republican Party. Even, I will say, it's gotten some better under Larry Trump's leadership now in the RNC, because for a long time they were saying, you know what, with all your legal battles, Trump, you're not going to be able to receive support from the RNC. You're going to have to raise money yourself. And I'm sure Larry Trump's trying to do something about that. I will say I'm not optimistic about Michael Whatley, less so than Larry Trump, because of the fact that Michael Whatley was chosen by the RNC still. You had Ronna McDaniel, who announced that she was stepping down, and who did the delegates choose? They chose Michael Whatley, and they ended up choosing Larry Trump as well. And Michael Whatley was the former chair of the North Carolina Republican Party, so I don't really see a lot of positive changes coming from that. I just don't. So it's going to be on us. It's going to be on us trying to get the delegates of the RNC changed. There's a lot of bad delegates in the RNC who've been making these bad decisions. They chose Ronna McDaniel. They chose Michael Whatley. And they chose Reince Priebus as well, a lot of them. And so the importance of that changing so we can have actual leadership in the Republican Party, make it the real conservative party, not just the center-right party, is important. We need that change to happen. So, Nathan, anything else you wanted to say as far as this election cycle or your other thoughts about the other thing that I just thought about is Trump's kind of riding or dying on this.
Yeah.
Because if he does not get elected, he's probably going to jail. I mean, it's not really a problem. He's definitely going to jail. They will do everything in their power, and he may be just about to die on his deathbed when the police come to arrest him, right? You know, there's no way that he's going to stay free because the lawfare will succeed if he is not elected president. Would you tend to agree with that?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I mean, I think it kind of swings both ways. I mean, Trump has talked about, you know, vengeance on his end, as
retribution.
Retribution. Retribution on his end. So I mean, I think some of these people, they're either way, we could see things end up in jail. I don't know. I don't know. You know, Trump said the same thing about Hillary, you know, and we never saw that. So does that happen if he gets elected? I don't know. But I know for a fact, we more than likely, you know, see a Trump in jail or Trump convicted, whatever, for sure. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's right, and that's a big deal for Donald Trump himself. Because I will say, part of it for him has got to be his legacy. He doesn't want to be remembered as the president that got convicted. First, you know, he was indicted.
Yep.
Then he was a convicted felon.
Yep.
Ran for president a third time, really, when you think about it, because he ran for re-election in 2020, and now he's running for another term. So he doesn't want to be remembered as the guy that did that. Then got arrested and actually put into jail. You know, had to wear the orange jumpsuit the whole 9 yards. He didn't even want to be remembered as a president that was put on house arrest, let alone actually going to like federal prison or something. So, yeah, I think a lot of his legacy rides on this, and that's an important thing to note because I think his legacy matters a lot. You got to think too, the Trump name really was built up by Donald. Yep. Fred Trump mattered, yeah. People cared about Fred Trump, sure. But not as much as, you know, Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump has been a name in everyone's household for a very long time. Even before he ran for president, my dad knew who Donald Trump was, and so did I. I remember doing a school project well before Trump ran. We were doing a financial class quoting Donald Trump in it, his take on debt and money. And so, because he's been that for a very long time. He's been building a brand of New York real estate for a very long time. So, yeah, I will say, we got a comment pop in. Let me see. It looks like BB said something as well. So far, none of the swing states seem to be decided. Small margin in VA and huge margin in Florida are encouraging. Yeah, I will say, if I had to predict, I saw someone had a prediction up. It was a big map that had one person was predicting 286 for the Republicans, 252 for the Democrats. That could definitely happen. Now, that map, I will say, it had Virginia going blue. I think Virginia will be really close. I think Virginia has had some change. I think the trans issue really woke a lot of people up with the sexual assaults that happened. And the former governor, not the current governor, didn't really do anything about it, didn't speak on it, nothing. And the school, more importantly, handled it so badly. And finally, a lot of parents woke up and said, well, we're going to vote for someone who's really great on one issue, which is Glenn Youngkin. And look, Glenn Youngkin, I'm sure, is good on other issues, but that was the big thing he hit hard. Was transing the kids. We're not going to let it happen in Virginia. And so other than that, I haven't really heard a lot else. There was actually speculation that Youngkin was going to be Trump's vice president. It didn't end up happening. And I think J.D. Vance is a decent choice. He's still sort of somewhat new to the political scene. He did not.
All right, they just called Texas, Josh. Cruz.
Okay. So Fox News, it looks like, is calling Texas. Good. Thank you for helping us cover this, Samuel.
Yeah, they got about 60% of the ballots counted and in.
So Texas, Cruz wins.
Yeah.
Nice. We'll post that.
Is that one shocker, though?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that on the one hand. Like I said, I figured it would be close. I felt like Cruz would get reelected, but I thought it would be close because of the demographic shifts in Texas.
Well, you also got to think Uvalde County was going to be a pretty tense one.
Yes, that's true too. That was one thing you and I were talking about before we came on here. We were talking about this a couple days ago about how what an uphill battle Brandon Herrera had because he was running in that area against Gonzalez, who was the establishment Republican. The establishment Republican who went on CNN and basically name called Herrera. And so, yeah, that kind of guy. And Gonzalez is running obviously against the Democrat tonight. We'll see. Will they choose to go with the bad Republican or with the worst Democrat? They've got important decisions to make. Well, we will see. Well, I will say it's going to be a long night. We're not going to be able to cover the entire thing. We're going to go probably for another hour and a half almost, just trying to monitor this as well as we can. But it's important. This is going to be an important election. I think it's an important thing to mention here because I wanted to ask you this, Nathan, because you had said on an episode we did, in fact, it was either the last episode you and I recorded together or maybe the one before that this election was actually not that important as far as in the grand scheme of things. It was not the most important election of our lifetime. Do you care to elaborate on that or just kind of restate that? Because I'd like to hear you make your position and state your position and say this to the audience listening.
Yeah. So some of that I think has kind of changed as the process has gone along as well. I don't remember if Biden was still hadn't dropped out yet when I made that statement yet. So there was that. So then when Harris comes in, this person that Democrats had not voted for at all. This is Democrats' first time voting for her.
Right. In fact, as we know, they didn't in 2020. They didn't in droves. She got 1%.
Right. Exactly. So maybe some Democrats, it's their second time. It's our third time voting for Trump. But,
well, a third term voting for Trump in different elections. Democrats vote for candidates
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But
vote early, vote often.
But yeah, so some of that's kind of changed. One, again, I think I made that statement when Biden was...
You hear a horrible sound. It's the dog sneezing, so you're good.
Biden was still...
well, it was that's Rocky.
Yeah.
Was still the current running mate.
Leading the ticket.
Yeah, leading the ticket at the time. So I thought, it's really not going to be that important because in the sense of if it was Biden, Biden was going to be Biden, and we're not. I mean, it's weak and America's gone to what it is. And that's that. This one. It's kind of now that Harris is here, you have your choice between going, as Kamala says, we're not going back, either going back a little bit to Trump, or you have your choice of continuing to go forward, but worse, in a worse direction, towards more, so democracy.
Is this a good analogy? With Trump, you've at least got a significant slowing down of this car going off the cliff.
Yeah.
With Biden, it was going at 50 miles an hour. With Harris, it's going at 80 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, solid for sure. And especially with the abortion thing, just the stuff that she wants to do with that as far as, making sure even though, the Supreme Court and the way they ruled is supposed to stay like that, what she wants to do there. Just with what she wants to do as far as packing the Supreme Court. And I mean, she was voted one of the most, socialist liberal running.
Well, what's the difference?
Running mates, right? Yeah. What's the difference? Right, exactly. So I mean, definitely going from 50 to 80 to 100, whatever. Yeah, however you want to say that, for sure.
Yeah. What do you think are the chances of Kamala actually being able to ram that through, to actually being able to pack the Supreme Court? Do you think she'll be able to? Because FDR was, in many ways, the epitome of a liberal.
Right.
He was very popular, got reelected 3 times, and he still just didn't have the ability to do so. So I think it's going to be harder for any Democrat president to do it unless they're as popular as FDR, which, looking at how the country's changing with illegal immigration, could happen unless we have some changing of the direction. But do you think a Democrat president could achieve that?
Yeah, 100%. And Kamala, I would say, would probably be the person to do that. Flood the borders even more. Continue destroying things like Biden's been doing. And with the orders that the president can just write in and stuff.
Executive orders.
That's what I was looking for. I couldn't figure it out. Executive orders.
You had a John Fetterman moment.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the executive orders. With the executive orders, I mean, those take time just to even say, no, you can't do that. By the time you say, no, you can't do that, they've already kind of taken effect, and then it's hard to erase some of that stuff. Now, some things have gotten shot down that Biden tried to do pretty much right off the bat, but not everything. So that's part of the problem. So I do think that she'd be able to cause enough damage to do a lot of stuff, do a lot of that stuff. And if anybody's going to do it, she'd probably be the one. So, yeah.
All right. Well, Samuel, we've gone to about 30 minutes already. It's hard to believe we've been recording that long with you. I wanted you to talk about whatever you want to for the next few minutes. And also make sure you guys follow him on Instagram. That would be a cool thing for you guys to do to keep up with his political take. But also he talks about a lot of different stuff on his Instagram, a lot of pictures of the different things that he does. But, yeah, Samuel, go ahead and take it away before we say goodbye.
Really don't have anything. It's too much. It's too much to cover. Like, I don't think, God, probably post Civil War, there hasn't been anything this big riding on a single election.
Yeah, it's certainly
Lincoln almost lost, and the guy he ran against would have probably completely just ended the war, and we'd be split still. And this is the first time since the Civil War that a candidate for presidency didn't get voted on in a general election at all.
Yeah, true. Kamala Harris was not. She was chosen by the DNC, so the party that's all about democracy and voting, they didn't vote for their own candidate. She was appointed.
It's probably been the biggest lie of the 20th century, democracy.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys can follow him. Go ahead, Samuel. Tell them where they can find you.
Right now I just got the Instagram. I renamed it. Probably middle of the year. You can find me mainly just martial arts stuff on there now. Let me see if I pull up. Yeah, it's just Taekwondo Cowboy.
All right. Find him at Taekwondo Cowboy. We hope you have a great evening. Thanks again for coming on here, Samuel.
Yep. Nope. Not a problem.
See you next time. Cool. All right. Well, in terms of that, let's have some updates about some races, especially the race between Trump and Harris. But
Ohio, Trump.
So Ohio, the state of Ohio has gone for Donald Trump, and that brings the electoral college count to 200 and something, I would think.
Yeah. I'm trying to find.
You're good.
Some of these aren't completely.
Don't worry about that. I'll go while we're talking. While you're looking for that, I'm glad we had Samuel on to talk to you about that. It is an important election. Now, what do I think? Do I think this is the most important election of our lifetime? It really is up to Trump, because if Trump does get in, he can do what he did in his first term, which, of course, you and I, Nathan, in talking especially about the DeSantis versus Trump stuff and the primary this year, of course, there were letdowns in Trump's first term, especially with the coronavirus, but other stuff as well. However, the way Trump is talking in this election cycle is he's going to end 2 wars. He's going to make sure that the war in the Middle East comes to a stop. He's also going to make sure that he negotiates an end in the war in Eastern Europe between Ukraine and Russia. Now, he can fumble that. He could, talk really tough and then say, you know what, as long as we just kind of sit back and do nothing, it's okay. Or he can say, well, we're going to send aid to Ukraine. We're just not going to send as much. Trump may say that. The tune of the Republican Party may change. And look, there are a lot of Republicans that don't really have principles. They will do what they are told to do, and that's all there is. They just want to come to the meetings and say, what's our message? And that's it. They don't really have any other principles. Let me readjust the microphone.
Also, to update you.
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
All right. You should be hearing the audio a little bit differently.
Yeah.
We had to adjust the audio when we had Samuel on, but the audio should be some better now. Go ahead and update me. What were you saying?
So this is from Fox. Right now I've got 195 Trump and 117 Kamala Harris.
Okay. Thank you for the update. It sounds like it was only, I think it was 113 just a few minutes ago. So it sounds like Harris has picked up another state. So
Colorado.
Harris picked up the state of Colorado. Gotcha. and Trump
And-
picked up the state of
in Washington D.C. by the way.
Oh, well, what a surprise at the most liberal place in the entire
that's-
country.
I forgot that counts.
Yeah, the votes do it. Yeah, it's a complicated one. There's people that want to make it an actual state that has more electoral college votes than it currently does, even though, of course, it's overwhelmingly liberal. It's like I don't even know what to compare that to.
Yeah.
It would be like going to someone and saying, "Hey, we're going to have a vote. Do you want to raise or not?" And everyone, of course, is going to say, "Well, of course we want to raise." Well, what's it going to be? And we're all going to vote for it to be as high as possible. When that's actually not the best thing for the company. We'll just use that as the analogy. That's like going to DC and saying, "Hey, how do you want us to lead the country?" They're like, "Well, of course, whatever lines our pockets the most."
Yep.
So to me, they shouldn't get a vote. They're publicly, again, there's some people in DC that are not actually in the government, but the majority is in the government. Because why? They don't want to have to fly 2 days worth to be able to come into work. They want to be able to drive 10 minutes, if that.
I'm looking at North Carolina. Sorry, I am paying attention.
No, you're good. No, you're good.
I'm looking at North Carolina right now, and thus far, with 59% of the vote in, Trump's up 51.1% to Kamala Harris's 47.8%.
Okay,
so that's
very
actually
close.
pretty good. Estimated votes remaining are 2,300,000 and some change.
I see.
300,000 and some change.
Yeah, it's North Carolina is another one that I think will probably go for Trump. I'm hoping again. A lot of this is I hope.
I think if it does, it's because of the hurricane.
Well, that's the thing. I really think that that's the big reason, because what happened, FEMA said they didn't have to have the funds, and this was after a big spending bill where billions were sent to Taiwan, billions were sent to the Middle East, and then, by the way, it wasn't just Israel; it was sent to the Palestinians as well. So it's kind of like, are we funding? Makes you think of the quote from Iron Man when the one evil guy, the Mandarin, is like, "I'm funding the world's most powerful terrorist in one hand, and then the biggest weapons contractor in the other." It's like, are we really funding the Hamas and the Israeli forces at the same time?
You might want
Is Biden that stupid? Apparently, he is that stupid. So it looks like, according to Nathan, that Georgia is very competitive for the Trump campaign.
Right now, they've got 75.91%. So 76% of the vote.
That's what's reporting in.
Is expected in right now. They've got 1,301,000 and some change votes left. And right now it's 52.4% in favor of Trump, and you've got 47% in favor of Harris.
I see. I want to look at some at a race between William Timmons and I believe her name is Harvey for our part of South Carolina. If you will, go ahead and you look that up. That'd be awesome. Just look up U.S. House Representatives Timmons versus Harvey. Should be Harvey. If you just look up Timmons versus Harvey election, it'll probably pop up. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Timmons has already won, because I will say one thing about our district of South Carolina.
That is Senate, right?
May not. No, it's House Representatives. For the U.S., though, not for the state's House, it's for the U.S. House. So they go all the way to Washington. But I will say one thing about our district of South Carolina. It may not be the most conservative where it counts, but it's very Republican. But the neat thing I was reading about in this book, I've talked about extensively on the podcast. It's called Annals of the Stupid Party by the great Clyde Wilson. And where that comes from, there's an amazing quote from Sam Francis, which is that there are two parties in America, the evil party and the stupid party. Occasionally, the two parties get together and do something both evil and stupid, and that's called bipartisanship. And it's like, that is American politics in a nutshell. That is exactly right. And so he looks at the Republican Party and basically calls it the stupid party. Of course, the Democrat Party, right, they're the evil party, but the Republican Party is the stupid party. And one thing that he looks at very eloquently and in an extremely well-written way, he looks at it from the perspective of a Southerner and a historian, is that the Republican Party has always been the party of state capitalism and big business. They have never really, truly cared about conservative issues. They've acted like they do. But one thing I was reading about, I actually read it on my podcast recently. One thing that happened was you had President Reagan, and whenever he got out and Bush came in, Bush fired the majority of Ronald Reagan's appointees. George W. Bush he was from the New England area, and Reagan, of course, was from California. And Reagan was not all that in a bag of chips, but he was better than the Bush family, of course. So, were you reacting to something you saw?
Yeah, Timmons is going to win that race.
Okay,
if he hasn't already gotten called.
So it has not been called, but William Timmons is way ahead of Harvey.
Yeah,
Her name is
60%.
Catherine Harvey, I believe. But yeah, I'm not surprised. Like I say, our part of South Carolina is very Republican, so it is
Anybody that's got it,
most
and we say Republican in the sense of anybody that has an R by their name. Gets
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, very well said.
This is why I wish that some of these guys, even like, you know, their constitutional party, I wish that they would run as, you know, a Republican, because you have a better chance to get
So
elected.
what's the percentage between Timmons and Harvey and Hackett? So
according to this, Timmons has 60.7%.
60.7.
Yep. Harvey has 36.8.
All right.
And Hackett only has 2.5.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's disappointing, right? Because that's who I voted for, and it sounds like you too. But
right, yeah.
We knew that this guy was not going to win. It was more of a protest vote when it comes to
pretty much.
We don't like Timmons, and of course we don't like Timmons.
I mean, he got 5,290.
Yeah, I mean that's not nothing. I mean,
No.
of course there's better than it could be, I suppose.
That's still good.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a number of people he got his name out there, didn't he?
Right,
And
for
probably
sure.
a lot of that is people that go to Constitution Party meetings, but.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about Constitution Party, and I will say, I would like to do this is something we could explore on the podcast, I think, very easily.
Yeah.
Is look at the two-party system and then also look at multi-party systems in other countries. And one thing I would be very interested to look into, and I'm going to talk about it on my podcast as well as this one, is the transition period. So if a country has a two-party system and then they go to like a 3 or a 4-party system,
right.
How does that work? And most importantly, how does that work for the conservatives? Do they lose a lot more often? Do they lose a lot less often? Is it more fair in terms of who holds power? Because then you got to think, because there's parties, and especially I think of Sweden and even somewhat to an extent in Canada, but definitely Sweden, which that's my father's land. I mean, my grandfather was 100% Swedish. They have several parties, and one is hard right, very conservative, very much wants to stop all immigration. The other one is just kind of moderately center right. And in their example, the hard right party is starting to do a little bit better because they're overwhelmed by Islam. There's so many Islamic people coming into the country that it's changing parts of the country where they don't even speak Swedish. You know, they just kind of walk around speaking their native country. Well, guess what? That's kind of like how it is here, but instead of it being Swedish, it's English versus Spanish, right? And even, you know, there's other countries. I had a guy I was talking to a while back. He was in Canada. He was saying the big problem with Canada is actually not people that are coming from Mexico and Central America. It's actually Asia. A lot of people speaking Chinese and Japanese and Korean and stuff like that. So that's another problem. And the way that I look at it is we should care about this, and it's important. Like Trump said, this one thing that Trump said back in 2016 is we either have borders and we have a country, or we don't have borders and we have no country. We're just kind of this weird amorphous blob of we're just the world and people can move around freely as they want, which if you're a libertarian sounds good, but if you live in the real world, then it doesn't. So, yeah, so we have that with Timmons. It's not a surprise that Timmons is almost lapping Harvey by double. I mean, he's almost got double the points that she has. Because again, like you say, people in South Carolina, especially our district, will vote for anyone with the R next to their name. So that's not all that surprising.
So not confirmed yet, but I'm just scrolling through social media. I've got a couple of areas that are looking like Trump. Like they've already called them. These aren't official like news sites, but they've already called them as far as like North Carolina. Like for example, the Daily Wire, for example, has called North Carolina for Trump.
Interesting.
So it's looking like, I guess they've kind of done their own math and ways and things to that. So North Carolina potentially. And again, Georgia's still,
very
up for
competitive.
Grabs. Yeah. I'm trying to see where Virginia's at.
Georgia, if it's anything tonight like 2020, might be one of the last states to be counted fully.
Virginia is very close.
Virginia looks like we're at 48.3 in Virginia, 50%, right at 50%.
Yeah, and 58% of the votes in.
Okay, so not all, but that's what we're seeing so far. So again, Trump, we are at 50%, and Harris, we're where? What percentage in Virginia?
48.3 for Harris.
Man, that is just like that's thinner than Biden after going to the barber.
Yeah.
Man, that is really
that's
thin race.
Really, really tight.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's thin, man. I mean, Biden already didn't have that much hair, so if he goes to the
I wonder what Arizona's at right now.
Yeah, look at Arizona. I am very
actually
curious.
Arizona isn't in yet.
Arizona
it's
is
not counting yet.
That's true because they're behind us.
Yeah,
they're if I'm not mistaken, they're Pacific. They're either Pacific or they might be Mountain Time.
Yeah,
I think they're Pacific.
I think they're Pacific.
Because I'll say, man,
Arizona or Nevada are not in.
Arizona is a fascinating one. Arizona would have all the reasons to be very conservative because they're number one affected by illegal immigration a lot. So a lot of people should be going to the right. Now look at this. And you can't yet, but as the night weighs on, let's try and look at least a little bit at the Lake race, Carrie Lake in Arizona.
Yeah.
Because if she gets in, that's significant. She has been denied the governorship by the establishment. They hate Carrie Lake. That's the thing. They hate Trump, of course. I mean, literally, people have tried to kill Trump, right? That's very important, to note. But the other thing that's worth noting, man, is they hate Carrie Lake. They can't stand her. They also view her as a so-called election denier. And why? She, like Trump, fought the fraud. She actually tried to stand up with the backbone and say, I'm fighting this legally in court. So that's an important thing worth noting as well. That Lake fight. And that's the thing that people really, the Democrats don't hate Republicans that surrender to them and submit to them. They hate the Republicans that have a backbone, that fight against them hard. They otherwise, because if you look at them, they have rehabilitated George Bush and John McCain. Now, you have these Democrats who are like, I can't believe how disrespectful Trump was to McCain while he was alive. And then you got George Bush going on Jimmy Kimmel. So they've rehabilitated him, which is funny because only, you're talking about probably 10 years ago, George Bush was a war criminal that the Democrats all just hated about as much as they hated Trump almost. Especially right when he got in, man. They viewed 2000 was the original so-called stolen election. People viewed in 2016 on the Democrat side, Trump stole the election because of the Russians, right? They viewed Russia for 2016. And then in 2020, of course, Trump said, the election was stolen. But in 2000, a lot of Democrats were very mad that Gore did not get in. They said, the Supreme Court just handed it to George Bush, the son of the former president, right? Bush Sr. And they viewed it as an illegitimate election.
So let's do some math real quick. Right now, the current standing is still 195 for Trump.
All right, just so you know, I'm sorry to interrupt. We have lost Instagram. They did cap the stream at an hour.
That's fine.
So we'll do some shorts. So if you guys see us kind of like, if my phone's up, that's because we're recording for Instagram. We want to have some stuff for our guys on Instagram who are not able to watch this on YouTube or Rumble. So continue, man. I'm sorry for interrupting.
All right. So right now, we still have 195 for Trump. So I'm trying to figure out what states he potentially could lose, especially the swing states.
Right.
Virginia is currently right now looking in his favor, but he's only up like +1, like 150.
Okay. So 150.
1.5. Yeah, 40. Yeah.
So man, and it looks like this is
49.
What state? This is Arizona.
This is
Virginia. Well, it's gone down even closer. So now it's 49.9% Trump, 48.4% Harris.
Yeah.
Man, it is very close over in Virginia. Very close. But like I say, I do wonder if Trump will get it. I think it'll be a razor thin margin.
Yep. It's close.
So, I really think that what Samuel said earlier when he was with us is probably important. I think a lot of people, it was their pocket. It was their wallet was their big issue.
Right.
I have less money than I did when Trump was in office. And there's people that do care about the culture stuff. How much do you think of a factor with the border? We're talking about the border being very important in this election. How important do you think Ohio, regarding Springfield, Ohio, and the Haitian migrants, how important do you think that was for the Trump campaign? I think it was massively important.
I mean, Ohio is important in general. I mean, because the saying goes, as Ohio goes, so goes the election.
Right.
So Ohio is important in general. But I mean, I think up north has been Ohio and Michigan are very important.
Yes.
Those two states, just with, and though Pennsylvania in there too, fracking and everything like that. I mean, just everything.
The jobs,
right? The jobs up there. That the unions agree with them or disagree with them. I mean, it's
so that's important. The Teamsters union not endorsing Harris was a big deal.
Exactly. So,
and also one of the big heads of the Teamsters union, I think his name was Sean O'Brien, went and spoke at the RNC.
Yeah.
That was huge. That turned heads because the thing is, the Teamsters union knew that they could not endorse Harris because their own members would have backfired. They would have gotten really, really angry. And so they just kind of had to sit it out. They weren't really sure what to do. They couldn't make a decision there, because their own members would have been like, no, we actually like Trump better than Harris, which is funny because Trump does not talk that much about unions in a positive way.
Right.
He doesn't really go out of his way to attack them either.
No,
I will say,
which would be a bad idea. That'd be a bad political play.
Yeah,
anyway.
it would. You want people in unions and outside of unions.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's like politics just works, right?
Right.
You want to appeal to more than one group of people, right?
Right, 100%.
That's just how it works. And so, yeah, I would say that was a big determining factor as well. I think that Ohio, with Springfield, Ohio, with the one woman getting up and tearfully talking about, oh, I can't even stay in my house. There's Haitian migrants yelling at me their native language, and I've been living here. I think she was living there for almost 30 years. It was a long time. And I'm about to leave. My husband said, we can't do this. We've got to move. Please give me a reason to stay. And she was almost in tears. She was just, you could tell this woman was afraid. And she even said, look at me. I'm an old woman. I weigh, 90 pounds. I can't even defend myself against these people. Please do something. And then there was the other guy. He was running actually for mayor in Ohio, saying, I had someone call me, because you got to think, he was a prominent figure in politics at the time.
Right.
Someone messaged him, called him, and said, hey, I'm a single mom here at the town hall of Springfield. There are a bunch of Haitian migrants here getting green cards, getting government benefits, getting welfare, and I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting to get anything. WIC, the Women in Helping Children Fund, and I can't do it because the line is so long, and it's all being focused on the migrants here from Haiti. It's just crazy.
So let's do a little prediction yourself. What states do you think that like Trump is like kind of guaranteed? Not the swing states or battlegrounds.
Well, I mean, it's already sort of been called, hasn't it? I mean, you had South Carolina. I was like, there's no way South Carolina's going for Harris,
right?
Which is a good thing. I like the fact that we live in that kind of a state. I would say I'd be very shocked if Harris won Texas. Texas is bad, as I was saying earlier. It's really turning more liberal because of the illegals that are there, but it's not gone yet. I was more worried about Texas in 2016 because there was a lot of bad stuff. But then you got the stuff that went on this most recent election cycle, and Abbott started to finally do something.
Right.
He didn't do enough, but he did something. I think a lot of that was political, I will say. I think that Texas is going to go pretty solidly for Trump, and hopefully so.
What about Utah?
Utah, I think, is kind of a mixture.
It's only 6 points, but
yeah, I would tend to say that. What is it looking like right now as far as is it showing Trump ahead?
I don't even know if that's in right now.
That's okay. It may not be.
Yeah, because
that's
over there.
That's
so
that the country,
possibly it's about to be 7 o'clock there. So
yes, I mean they haven't closed the polls.
So they haven't closed just yet.
I get that. Well, yeah, it'll be that I could see really going either way.
I'm just getting a little concerned.
No.
Because I've been doing some math. I have been paying attention, even though I'm looking down a lot. I have on my phone. Right now, as it stands, they've got Trump up in Virginia, Trump up in Georgia, Trump up in North Carolina. Those are great. But
Bryson chatted in. Bryson says, looking at the polls, also thinking that New Mexico will be a tight race.
Oh yeah, New Mexico.
Yeah, I've thought that. I will say I had that one mentally going for Harris, just because I don't know that. We'll look at the data.
The border states might.
It's tough because on the one hand, with so many people, but with so many people being there illegally, of course, it's right on the border.
Yeah.
You got that, but then you got to think the conservatives that are there are more ticked off about it. They are more likely to probably get out and say, I can't stand this. We've got to stop this.
Right.
And so it may be more competitive than I think. Mentally, though, for whatever reason, my gut just said, it's probably going to go for Harris. I could be wrong. That was just conjecture. That's not really something I have to back up.
And I'm not trying to be that guy, but why is PA taking so long?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
there's only 37% of the vote.
In 2016, Pennsylvania was the last one that gave Trump the presidency,
which is still stupid.
In 2020, it took a super long time as well. It was also really late. And you're right. Pennsylvania, I will say, it came out in 2020, had some of the worst rules about early voting. It was bad.
For sure.
And that was the thing I was talking about to someone not long ago, that pretty much what happened after 2020 was there was an audit in Arizona. That audit was very damning, we'll put it that way. It revealed a lot.
Right.
And then other states that also had big question marks refused to do audits because they didn't want this stuff to come to light. So I will say that about that, because that was one of the states. Pennsylvania did not, because this is 2020. 2016 went for Trump. 2020 went for Biden. Pennsylvania did not want to do an audit. No one there in no county wanted to do an audit, which is kind of like, again, well, what are you trying to hide? If you won legitimately, what are you trying to hide?
Right.
That's just what I would say about that. And unfortunately, there's no answer when it comes to the irregularities of 2020. So We can move on from there. No need to linger as far as the election of 2020. We can focus on 2024.
I'm moving to Delaware.
You're moving to Delaware. How did it go?
Because Sarah McBride will win open Delaware seat, becoming the first transgender person in Congress.
Well, why? The question becomes, Nathan, why would you want to be close to a person like that?
Because such acceptance.
You want to accept that person.
Of course.
Well, what you need to do is accept them and do a public video, because people love the virtue signal, don't they? People love to come up and say, "Here I am with my brave trans son."
Oh man,
Mom, I think I'm actually a man. No, you were born a boy. You're actually a girl. But Mom, why do you keep putting me on puberty blocks? And she's like, shut up, because she's trying to make the child think it's trans, and then unfortunately a lot of times they end up succeeding, which is really sad.
Gracious.
That's one thing that needs to really change in this country, and I will say that's one thing I will say. Overall, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
Even if Harris does win, I think that there's enough people waking up where by 2028, in other words, if we skew left this election, I think in 2028 we will skew right even further. I think people will really be ticked off, and in 2028 it'll get a lot better. Do you think so?
You're assuming that there's another election in 2028. Again, I don't think there's another election if Harris wins. I really
so
don't.
After tonight, it's kind of make it or break it for American.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm on that train 100%.
Okay, I don't know. I think possibly so, but I do think that if this happens here in 2024, people will wake up and realize that local races are really important, because what happens, for example, with coronavirus in 2020. Fauci said, "I'm in the federal government. You will do as I say." And DeSantis kind of shook his head and said, "That's not going to happen."
Right.
So if that happens, if the states actually start standing up to the federal government more because of how 2024 goes, that would be on balance a good thing. We need to have.
But do we have enough to do that?
What are you talking about? What do we have enough?
Like, do we have enough DeSantis's?
Well, that's the important thing. It's really not up to the people that run; it's up to the people that elect them.
Well, yeah, this is true.
So if the electorate wakes up because of 2024,
yeah,
you could start to see some better gubernatorial candidates, could you not?
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I'm going to put some stuff on Instagram. I've been making shorts so you guys do not feel forgotten on Instagram. You guys should definitely follow us. It's zoo_nation_. So really easy to find us and follow us. That's an interesting thing. I will say, in terms of the importance of this election, I think it is important.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I think the future of the conservative movement, I think the best days are yet to come.
Yeah.
Because, and I'll say, let me ask you this. So let's say that Trump does get it.
Yep.
And then next time, so 2028,
yep,
J.D. Vance runs. What do you think that looks like? What kind of a candidate do you think he'll be for president? Do you think he'll likely win? What do you think?
I'd like to see more of him before determining that. I think obviously he would be the next guy, as long as he doesn't pull like a stupid move like not Cruz. Who is the VP for Trump?
Well, you're talking about Pence.
Yeah, Pence.
Yeah,
there we
the
go.
former
As long
VP,
as he,
not his current.
Right.
pick.
Yeah. As long as he doesn't pull a VP move like Pence, and just something really dumb, I guess. I think he'll have that spot.
He'll definitely get Trump's endorsement.
Yeah,
because he's going to be his vice president.
Right,
That's
exactly. Unless he decides to endorse, like, I don't know, RFK or something like that.
That would be interesting. That would be very interesting.
Yeah, it would be interesting. And then, but that I could see like splitting hairs, and things. But I'm kind of interested to see what he's like in the cabinet, and everything. Just because I do feel that he's kind of misspoke out of turn a couple times, especially like on
Vance
Vance.
Okay, gotcha.
Vance. Talking about, for example, like abortion, where he has come out and said that Trump would sign a national abortion ban, and be like, no, I misspoke. We didn't talk,
right?
And that's hurt him in areas, And
the funny thing about that is, I really think that the problem was not what was said. The problem was that it didn't line up.
Right.
In other words,
exactly.
They could have gone either way, and it
Right.
probably would have been not that big of a deal.
Exactly.
In other words, if Trump had just backed up what Vance said, that would have been fine. The way that they kind of somewhat disagreed
Right.
was the problem. It was not a look of unity. I think that's the important thing to note.
And so I think that if he's going to do that, if he runs, that could be an issue as far as just kind of getting ahead of ahead of the game a little bit, or not having a full game plan there, or just the communication side of things. So I'm curious as to how he runs this as a VP. Yeah. And that'll kind of determine a lot as far as that goes.
If you think about it, I was trying to remember. I want to say he got in 2020, so he's been in for 4 years ish. Maybe he even got in 2020. So I have to look that up. Sorry, what?
Somebody just. Oh, Utah. Utah just got called.
Utah was called Trump. Okay, so Trump has now got the state of Utah.
Yes, sir.
And so his electoral college votes have gone up to
205.
So he's at 205. Very cool.
Wait,
all right.
Wouldn't that be another state though?
Well, keep looking unless the number.
Because what were we at?
Well, we were at 195. So if Utah had 10, then
okay. Well, Utah has 6. So
okay.
No, that doesn't mathematically
no, we'll
make
keep
sense.
looking. I'm sure there's another one in there.
I'm definitely missing something.
Fine. No, you're good. It's fine.
Texas,
I would. I'd like to see exactly. I'd like to see Vance come into his own. Because Vance is still learning. I mean, you can think about it. He's sort of reinvented himself because he's always had the very rural childhood. He's talked about that at length. But then he was kind of a tech guy for a while. He's entrepreneurial. He's been in Silicon Valley, stuff like that. He's palled around with people like Curtis Jarvin, who is a software developer. And so and he's still kind of figuring that out. He's still figuring out the appealing to the common man, but also as more of like an intellectual Republican. Right. If that makes sense.
Right.
Rather than, Trump speaks, some people criticize him for, his vernacular is coarse. And it's like, okay, but it appeals to the common man. He's not using the big words and stuff like that. He's just kind of speaking to the people in a direct way. Vance is a little bit different. He's a little more sophisticated. We'll just put it that way. And I'm not saying that as a that's good or Trump's bad. I'm just saying that's the way that it is. That's just how they talk. So again, take that for what you will. You can like it. You cannot like it.
It was Utah and Montana.
Montana
there
also has gone for Donald Trump.
Yeah, Utah and Montana. I was Very like, where's this other state?
You're good, man. You're really good. So we have.
So Utah and Montana puts them at 205, not 905.
Yep. So 905 would be nice.
Except for
like 300%.
We gained a lot of states.
Yeah, we gained a lot of states overnight. And we must have invaded Mexico, like Dan.
Right. Puerto Rico's become a state now.
Like Dan Crenshaw wanted it, we invaded Mexico.
Mexico has now become a state.
And like Joe Biden wanted, we invaded Russia.
Right. like
900 electoral college. He's like over triple. That's great. That would be pretty freaking funny. But I think that it's just going to be an interesting election, and it could really, at this point, it's looking like Trump's doing well. But guess what? We've seen this movie before. It was called 2020, where Trump was looking like he was getting way ahead, and then all of a sudden it started changing. So
they've started counting in Arizona. This is only 34% of the vote in.
All right. Bryson says Trump has taken the lead in the Pennsylvania race right now.
Yeah, let me check to see on that
probably
one.
Close,
because I want to check the percentages because, some of these percentages have changed as well.
Yeah. It's just hard to really look. Okay, another message from Bryson. Extremely tight race in Wisconsin right now, but Trump is pulling ahead, so that is promising.
Yeah.
I think Wisconsin might be competitive.
Actually, and the PA, dude, the Pennsylvania, it's really close. So thus far, at least what I've got from Fox right now, Fox doesn't have him ahead. However, it is 49%, but they are so Harris has 49.7 and Trump has 49.4 percent. And so that can literally go either way by a couple of votes. That's in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be updated just as we speak.
It's
impossible to keep extremely close tabs.
Yeah, no, 100%.
It's so fast,
Right, no, it moves
it moves
like
so
crazy.
Fast. So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and that's slowly going down for Harris, but again, it's by razor, like you said, thinner than Biden's hair. So, though that one's really close to even say this is really good.
It's a delicate balance, guys. AOC holding a glass.
Let me check Georgia. Georgia, it looks like he's up. Georgia, we have 80% of the vote counted.
Okay.
Which is good. They haven't called it yet. He's got 42.2%. Harris has 47.1%. So that's pretty solid.
42.2.
And we only have about 1 million and some change left.
So what's the Georgia? Say it again so I can write it down.
Georgia is 52.2% in favor of Trump.
Trumpster.
Yep.
And Harris
47.2% in favor of Harris.
All right, 47.2. Gotcha.
Yeah. So currently that's Trump, and now 81% is in, but still same percentage.
All right.
Yeah, and that's 81.45. So we could see Georgia called pretty soon.
Yeah.
North Carolina, last I checked, was pretty close as well. North Carolina currently right now it's got Trump up, which is solid. Only 66% of the vote.
Where are we at with North Carolina?
52%, and
Even.
yeah,
Okay.
and 47% even.
Okay.
So yeah, 52 and 47.
Gotcha.
So these are still close races, man.
Oh,
I
very
mean, this is why it's worrisome for me, in general, as far as, I mean, this really tells you, in my opinion, where we are as a nation,
Right.
as far as abortion goes, as far as taxes go, as far as everything else. And I know you and Samuel were talking earlier, is a lot of people were voting because of their wallet. Yes, I was, but on the same note, I mean, the biggest thing for me was the abortion thing. You know, I any day here, and look,
So
I will take taxes. I'll take
this
taxes
straight.
any day if it saves a baby.
A man's top issue was the abortion.
Oh,
issue.
100%.
Usually it's women, right? That's what we're told.
Yeah,
right?
no, 100%.
That's what we're told.
And Trump's not, you know, Trump's for the exceptions. He said this before in the past. You know, there's arguments there. I'm not having the arguments for that. But so Trump's not like the head honcho, in my opinion, for this, you know, for the pro-life movement.
Oh yeah, I understand.
He's done wonders for it, but he's not like the guy.
Well, this is also a guy who's not really the most well-spoken on everything,
right?
And so the abortion issue is no exception.
100%.
That way,
100%. So at least though, he's not like Harris, who won't even say, "Hey, so where do we stop?" I mean, Harris didn't even come out in the debates and say, "So like 9 months, are you like not okay like with 9-month abortion?" And it's like, well, that doesn't really happen. Well, first off, it does. Second off, you should at least be able to say where you stop. Except for the problem is with the pro-choice movement, you don't.
Right.
You out of the womb, you can still murder it. You know, I mean, there's got to be a stopping point at right.
There should be.
Like, I mean, at least Trump, you know, has like, oh, okay, exceptions, but like you can't kill it once it has a heartbeat or this and that. Like there's, you know, a stopping point at least.
His stance is actually very clear. The problem is not that he's unclear. The problem is some people think he's not pro-life enough and some people think he's not pro-choice enough.
Right.
But
and
it's nevertheless clear. You can't look at that and say, well, what does that mean?
Right. I can at least vote with that on a clear conscience.
Right. Whereas with Harris, it's more like, well, you've been asked, Harris, for the limit.
Right.
When does this stop? And instead it's, well, it's up to the woman and her doctor. And it's like, well, that means that, you know, that logic would mean, and here's the issue too. That logic leads you two places. Number one, to 9-month abortion.
Yep.
Number two, the unfortunate thing about, it's between a woman and her doctor, and I was talking about this with my wife, is that this is going to go hand in hand with what Canada is doing, what California is starting to do, which is euthanasia, basically human euthanasia, or they call it, you know, they don't call it that, they call it assisted suicide or elective suicide, trying to make it sound sophisticated. Because eventually it's going to come down to, well, if this person is unhappy, if this person is sad, if this person just wants to make a decision about dying,
let's kill him.
Then what's it to you? You know, you just need to be, and that's the thing too, because they'll say that, oh, if a woman wants to get rid of her child, what's it to you? You know, you need to just live and let live.
Right.
And it's like, this is a death cult. This is an evil group of people that actually are okay with it. And it's just weird. It's that's the thing too. I just use the word weird and it brings flashbacks of Kamala Harris calling Vance weird. It's like they try to weaponize the W word, which I guess made the W word. The word weird, they try to make it and use it against Republicans, which is strange because when you look at Walz, that guy's pretty weird.
Yeah,
Tampon Tim. It's just strange. And I don't know what his problem is, but yeah, he's
a Democrat.
Yeah, well, man, that you hit the nail on the head there. That's his whole issue, right? I'm just kidding.
No, and I, you know, look, some of the pro-choicers arguments, not the abortion side of things, but they have other arguments as far as like, all right, you want to tell women what to do with their bodies. First off, no, that's not the argument in the first place. It's not your body. But anyway, let's like grant, okay, sure. Let's listen to the rest of that. Well, why don't we tell men what to do with their bodies? I can semi like, all right, so let's at least start from there. I'm for cracking down on fathers that leave their children. I'm not for vasectomies, forced vasectomy. No, that's stupid. That doesn't solve the answer anyway, because you're still going to want to abort the child that the person gave you before the vasectomy anyway. So it really doesn't help the scenario. So I'm for cracking down more on fatherless homes. I'm for, and not necessarily putting them in jail, because some of these guys would rather go to jail. So we got to figure out another solution as far as like, all right, how do we get this dad or father figure in the household? How do we get at least until the child is 18? At least, how do we do that? Do I have the answer to that? No. But I mean, those are some things that I could get with if the pro-choice went right with it.
Sure.
They don't, because it's more like, oh, well, let's like cut your balls off, or it's like, no, that's not the answer.
Violent action that doesn't actually solve the problem in the case of abortion,
right,
with women, in the case of what you're talking about with
women.
Right. So yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that's another thing that will continue to prevail. One of the reasons why I'm actually optimistic, even if the Democrats get in, is as more science comes out, there's only so much of, sticking your fingers in your ears and going blah, blah, blah you can do. Eventually, people are going to see these videos and these pictures of abortion and say, you know what? It is alive. Like even, forget now, was it Chris Rock, I think it was, that was talking about abortion and saying it is alive. And he even said, I'm, this is Chris Rock talking. I'm pro-abortion. But come on, don't say that it's a clump of cells. It is a life.
Right.
And there are people that are finally waking up to some of that.
And I don't know if you've heard of him, and he's political rapper, Tom McDonald.
I know about him.
He's got a song, I forget the name of the song, but one lyric in that song is, bacteria is life on Mars, but a heartbeat isn't life on Earth.
Right.
And it's like, dude, I mean, that's like common sense too. It's like, it doesn't make sense, like how do we call the bacteria life? Which again, science does say it's life per se. Okay, cool. I can grant you that. But wait, a heartbeat, which is significantly more complex than bacteria. Right. A heart beating is way more complex than bacteria just existing.
Proof of life.
So you're telling me that this thing on Mars is life, but this is not?
Right.
Like, make it make sense. I'm all for science. That's cool, but make it make sense. Also, I was talking to my dad earlier today. I love that the people that are claiming the science, at least some of the people I knew, they didn't know a lick of science or hated science in high school. Now all of a sudden they're the ones claiming, listen to the science, listen to the science. It's like, what? Like, when did you guys like fall in love with science? When apparently science now swings your way, quote unquote. I mean, I don't know.
Because the elites who push the narrative say, oh, we speak for science.
Right.
Like Fauci did not speak for science,
no.
But he claimed to.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got other people like that, too, in terms of
we speak
abortion.
for big pharma and money.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Really, big pharma is the symptom. Money, as far as people being bribed, is the issue. That's what's made big pharma the problem that it is people taking bribes and saying whatever big pharma wants them to say. I mean, when the winds blew right back in the 1970s and 80s, they said, hey, tobacco is good for you. Legitimately, they actually said tobacco's got all kinds of good things. It's a stimulant and has no negative effects when the winds were blowing right. And then the winds were starting to blow the other direction when people realized, no, this is actually killing people. People are smoking and dying. They're doing tobacco in their mouths and they're getting mouth cancer.
Yep.
But before then, people thought, well, big tobacco is paying the pharmaceutical industry and they're giving a big old thumbs up to tobacco. So, the pharmaceutical industry, the health industry has been wrong, disastrously wrong before, when they said that smoking was cool and healthy. So
Arizona swung thus far. It's only 48%, but Arizona has swung in Harris's favor.
How much reporting in?
47%.
Wow, already in Arizona?
Yeah, Arizona.
That's crazy.
Arizona's counting fast.
Yeah, they're counting very quickly.
It's only 50% Harris, 49.1% Trump. So I mean, like 9th of a percent. And again, I don't know what counties specifically. Looking based off the maps, a lot of the red counties thus far in Arizona haven't been counted yet either. So yeah,
Okay.
So there's still that's still a toss up. That's why these haven't been called. Looks like Wisconsin keeps going back and forth. Pennsylvania keeps going back and forth. Actually, Pennsylvania, it looks like Trump is kind of taking a little bit more of a lead now. It's a 50.6% for Trump, 48.5% for.
Where is this?
This is Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is
Still
Pennsylvania,
looking at
and that's only
Wisconsin.
50% of the vote. In though,
Gotcha.
how do they only have gracious? Pennsylvania's slow, man. Y'all got to go faster. I don't know if this is how y'all operate in general, like not just voting, but Pennsylvania, y'all got to go fast. Like maybe I'm just a fast moving guy. I don't know.
A lot of people, I guess. That's
I guess.
It is a lot of people.
I mean, man. Michigan right now, only 18% of Michigan is in. Wow. Wow, only 18% of Michigan is in. Michigan's even slower.
That's surprising. Yeah, I mean, well, I think Michigan, at least parts of it,
I don't like Ohio.
Are central timing, so they don't move as fast as the Eastern Seaboard. That's the crazy thing about Pennsylvania is they're the same time zone as us, and we've had our polls closed.
I don't like
for 3
Ohio,
hours now.
but I gotta say that, like, hey, good on Ohio for being faster than Michigan in voting.
Oh, you don't like Ohio because you're.
But still go blue. But
you're a Wolverine, which I'm not a Wolverine, but I like the Wolverines better than the Buckeyes.
Right? Yeah.
We can side up with hating the Buckeyes.
I mean,
we can agree on that.
I don't know how I don't know how anybody's an Ohio State fan.
Yeah,
it just doesn't make sense.
Neither.
What are you, a poisonous nut? Oh, that's cool.
But yeah.
Oh man.
It's funny because now I'm looking at this for Wisconsin numbers, and they've still got numbers for Robert Kennedy, even though he has dropped out and endorsed Trump. He's only got 0.5%, but still, it's just
didn't
weird.
He keep his name on the blue states?
Not by his choice.
Well, yeah. He kept his name on the blue states, and
because the blue states made it happen. They were like, we're going to pull from Trump.
But so see, I think he also wanted to do that. He took his name from the red states completely. And the red states let him do it.
Oh, so
and then the
swing
swing states wouldn't let. Like I think Pennsylvania didn't allow him to take his name off at all. I think it was Pennsylvania. I'd have to look back on that. But there were some battleground states that said no, you can't do it. And then the blue states, I think a couple let him do it, and then the other one's like no. But see, if he stays on in the blue states, that's votes away from Harris. Really? So I don't care. True. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now in the red states, it's like that's votes away from Trump.
Right.
But in the battleground, that could 50-50.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It would go either way. That's true.
But I will say him at least endorsing Trump does make it better because the smart voters will be like, I gotta vote for.
Were you surprised when Kennedy endorsed Trump? I was.
Yes and no. Because I think Kennedy is a smart dude. He's not stupid. There are things I disagree with the guy on for sure.
Sure.
But I think that he cares about this country. And so he knows that, like, look, I'm just going to pull votes from people, which is okay to an extent, but not necessarily, for example, in the battleground states. It's not. It's really not. It's important that each candidate, I mean, whoever you're going for, gets as many votes as possible. So it's not okay for Kennedy to be pulling votes there in, Pennsylvania or, Wisconsin, Michigan, whatever. So I think he was smart of like, look, Trump at least agrees with me on the health issues. I agree with him on the vaccination issues and stuff like that. So, hey, we're making some things talk. And I think that he's smart enough to understand that, like, Harris is terrible. It's just
really
terrible.
I think that was what a lot of it came down to.
Right.
Is less anything else and more we can't have Harris be the next president.
I will tell you who I was shocked about. Joe Rogan.
Yeah, so I heard that he actually came right out and endorsed Trump. Did that actually happen?
Yeah, no, as far as I know, so from what I've seen, I've never actually seen the tweet, whatever, or any of that. But apparently, yes, he came out and endorsed. From everything I've read,
right,
he has officially endorsed Trump. This, that, and the other. Also, it's funny though. He offered Harris.
Sorry for the noise, guys. Keep going.
He offered Harris a spot on the podcast too. But they would not take it because they wanted special.
Yes,
I guess they wanted him to come up there or whatever.
They wanted Rogan to do it not in I think he's in Austin. They didn't want
wherever
it
he's
done
at,
in his usual studio. They want it done other places.
And he said, no, I don't move.
And they wanted a bunch of other stuff. Apparently, they wanted her to not really be alone.
Right.
They wanted them to be able to give her help about certain things. And it's just like, that's
like,
never, Joe Rogan has never done a podcast.
No.
Like that. He has had more than one person on at a time, but it's never the idea of, if I fact check you, you guys can fact check me back. That's it's just a weird adversarial thing that doesn't need to be happening.
Right.
He has had more than one person on, as I've said.
Right.
But not like that. Not a political candidate having basically her staff with her.
No, 100%.
That's just not okay. And think about it. At what point in the Trump Joe Rogan episode did Trump look over and say, "Hey Don, is that right?" Or zero. Trump the entire time was off the top of his head and he just spoke.
Right.
Harris can't do that.
Right. No,
she doesn't have
because she gets herself. She does the Biden thing and gets herself in trouble. You know, when she talks, it gets her in trouble. Yeah. I mean, it really does. And also,
when she tries to think, it gets her in trouble.
You know, in Joe Rogan's defense, it's called the Joe Rogan experience. So you're supposed to come down and experience him. Like he's not supposed to go to you and experience you.
Do things his way. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, that's not that says a lot about like her personality, or at least her team's personality.
Very
like, no, you come to us. No, I mean, at least Trump went to you. Like, this is, I'm not trying to be like biased in this sense, but I mean, it does kind of say like Trump at least is willing to go to you, not Trump's like, yo, can we make it work? You come to me or whatever. Harris is like, no, let's like, you come to me because I'm that person. It's like, but you're really not. Right. You're just a vice president right now. So, I mean, no.
I mean, the vice president, the office matters, but again, optics wise, she did not realize how tone deaf that was.
Right.
Because the funny thing is, they were saying, this is just an example, when Trump was saying he wasn't going to debate Harris at all, first he said that. Then he said he was not going to debate her more than once.
Right. The
narrative was, oh, Trump's afraid. Well, then you've got Trump going on Joe Rogan for 3 hours, and then Harris refusing to, and it made it look like she was afraid, just from the optics perspective. Right. I'm not even trying to be biased like that. That's just the way that it looks. Is, well, you didn't go on, and there's no good reason because Trump found a way to make it happen. You found an excuse to get out of it.
Right.
And so that's the way that it is. And so one thing I will say, this is probably worth lingering on for just a little while. How are we on the Electoral College, by the way? Is there any updates?
No updates thus far. However, it did look like Virginia is currently in Harris's favor now.
Okay. So
and Arizona is still in Harris's favor, but by low margins.
So what's the numbers in Virginia?
Virginia, it's in low margins, but again, Trump was leading Virginia. So it's 49 Trump. Okay. And then 49.4 Harris.
Okay, so he's not ahead by much, but a little bit.
Not ahead by much.
Gotcha. Well,
but it's starting to, lean that way. So, it's something to watch, of course. Wisconsin is up for Trump right now. Again, still not much. 49.7. Well, now 6. 49.6. And 48.9 for Harris.
I see.
So not much. Close to a point at least. So I mean, that's the points are what I'm trying to look for.
Electoral College. I will be interested too to see the popular vote. That'll be interesting to see how they calculate that up. It doesn't really matter all that much, but I just think it'll be interesting to see.
Right now, popular vote as far as like votes wise, Trump's got that right now.
Okay. Yeah,
24 million and some change. Obviously,
what happens,
39 million right now for
It
Harris.
Fluctuates. Yeah.
Right.
One thing I think we should talk about, and I wanted to talk about this with you, and it just kind of popped in my mind. We were talking about Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
One thing that Trump did, I was actually listening to someone else I was listening to, talking to, I know what it was. It was to someone that used to work in the Trump administration about all the different podcasts that Trump had been on recently.
Right.
He went on a lot of them, and one of them that he went on was obviously Joe Rogan. He also went on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, PBD. He's a big entrepreneurial, former insurance guy. Very intelligent person. He's Armenian, so he's technically like by nationality from Iran, but by blood he's Armenian. American now. He lives in this country. And he's a Christian. That's the thing too. He's an Armenian Christian. So even though he lived in Iran, he was a Christian. He was in a Christian family. So PBD, Trump went there. Was a good podcast. Did very well views wise. I mean, the second day of Trump going on the Joe Rogan Experience, it was at 48 million views. So that's just YouTube. Spotify, I'm sure, was way more. So Trump, in other words, went on a lot of podcasts. I wanted to ask you, what do you think about old versus new media? So, for example, old media would be more like the Brett Baer interview with Kamala Harris. that used to be the big deal. The big deal was going on Fox News, going on CNN, going on MSNBC. The old media was where you went when you were a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
You went on the big cable shows. Really, you went on TV. That's actually what I'm trying to get at. I think with Trump going on Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan inviting Harris and Patrick Bet-David inviting Trump on the podcast, you're starting to see things going from TV to our phone and our laptop and our tablets.
100%.
And that to me, and okay, I get that there's play on the joints. You've also got smart TVs and stuff like that. Sure, but see, there's a difference. So the Fox News app is a channel. There's a Daily Wire app, but it is all online. You have to have an interconnection. It won't work otherwise. There is no Daily Wire channel, if you will. So that's an important thing worth noting. Now, that being said, I think it's important to note that we are moving away from the big cable channels and moving towards new media. What do you think about that? What do you think about us going from cable to new media that's all online?
I love
good,
it.
Bad. Me too. I think
I love it personally.
I think it's good.
Big media sucks. As far as Fox News, all of them. Why? Because why should we have primary voices heard? Anybody voices should be able to be heard. We're in freaking America, to put it simply. So basically, the more opinions that are out there, the better, in my opinion. Even if those opinions are not like mine, or yours. The more opinions, the better, because that's the way that everybody's voice should be heard. That was essentially the idea of America. One of the ideas of America, So I like it in that sense. There's opportunity there as well for growth as far as, company, whatever you want to do with it too. I like it. And it also proves that people have lost, in my opinion, a lot of people have lost faith in the old media, Fox News, CNN, all those major stations.
Right.
And really the only time you look at them is like, hey, Trump got shot. Like, oh, dang, eyes glued to the TV. Major events,
That's the only time.
Hurricane. Oh, man.
Right.
Eyes glued to TV until power goes out.
Even then, right, I would be curious. Even then, I'm sure there's a major breakdown in age between the old people that go to the TV to look at the Weather Channel, just as an example.
Oh, there's a
and
huge
the
age
people that go on their phone.
Right.
Because I would think even old people might go on their phone for some stuff, but the weather, that's just an example, will probably be more TV. And there's some people that are always going to reach for the remote and turn on Fox News when they hear about something happening. But a lot of younger people are going to go for the phone.
A lot of it is generational. Gracious. A lot of it is generational. I definitely feel at least, and I haven't looked at the studies, but at least from people I talk to, and from wide variety of left, right, whatever, and just in general. A lot of people, they're not watching a lot, our age, aren't watching a lot of TV. Right. They watch Netflix and stuff, but they're definitely not watching any news. If they get their news, it's Instagram, Twitter, podcast, or something like that. It's versus the older, like our parents' age, is typically Fox News, CNN, whatever, that type of stuff. Most of what I've talked to. And then people in the next generation, like my brother's generation, they're kind of, again, it's social media. Twitter is a big thing. TikTok, which I don't think that's a good way to get news, but Twitter's been a big one.
Yeah, it's become
both sides.
It's become a public square, and you said something a bit ago about how a lot of young people are looking at the news on their phones and Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that. You're right, that's true. And the thing that's important is it really, to me, emphasizes our responsibility to our viewers and then other people's responsibility to their viewers to present the truth honestly. Because you can stay very well informed by certain people that are good actors, that are responsible. But there's also people that just put out nonsense, that put out crap or don't really research these properly and then make a video trying to sound like they know what they're talking about. The thing that's beautiful about the internet is anyone can get behind a microphone and say things and look professional. Right. The bad side of the internet is anyone can get behind a microphone and sound professional and lead people astray, right? Exactly. It's definitely a double-edged sword. So that's an important thing that I think is worth noting as far as that. But I agree with you. I think the rise of new media is on balance a good thing in many ways. Because one thing that it has done, and the internet in general has done this, is allowing people to fact check the fact checkers. So, for example, if Fox News runs a story and someone says, you know what, that's crap. They can put out their sources and write about it in a blog. First, the big thing first, really, the old internet was blogs. Now there's still bloggers, but there's also a lot of just social media. There's also vlogging, and YouTubers and people like that. You talk about Twitter. Twitter is also another big one. So, the rise of new media is on balance a good thing. I'm excited to see it. Patrick Bet-David is a responsible person. He does a good job. Obviously, we do our best here. And so I think new media is a very good thing. I think it's finally challenging, because the good thing about it is the only good thing that I might do for Fox is challenge Fox to do better. And, there's some news organizations that don't do very well online, like I said. But overall, they're challenging Fox to do better and also be more engaging. I mean, the thing about it is, by the time our parents' generation dies, Fox may be a relic. It may be done.
Or
they're going to have to.
It's going to be like a phone thing.
Well, they're going to have to adapt.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If they don't, they'll die.
Right.
If they do, they'll probably get some of the young people, hopefully. Right. But see, the thing about that is it's going to be difficult, because they're going to have to really have differences in how they present the information.
They're going to have to hire Tucker Carlson back.
Not going to happen. But if they did, it would actually be really hopeful for them.
Right.
But one thing I'll say about them is I was listening to this was in 2024's primary in the Republican Party. Vivek said, look at the setup of this debate. This debate should be moderated by Elon Musk and Joe Rogan, and he mentioned somebody else too. That would have been a very interesting conversation, because Elon, say what you will about the guy, has interesting ideas and interesting questions. And Tucker Carlson, I think he said Tucker Carlson too, Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk, and whoever else I mentioned. So it would be interesting to actually see different kind of Joe Rogan. Yeah, I think he said Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk should be moderating this debate. They would ask interesting questions. Yeah. See, unless Fox hires talent that connects with young people, that don't just get in front of a camera and talk in a stilted voice, they actually are engaging, and a lot of it really.
Well, I mean, same with CNN.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
CNN. I don't think CNN is going to be salvageable. I don't think it's going to be. It's either going to be completely bought out by a bigger company that actually transforms it and probably renames it too. It's probably going to have to rebrand completely.
100%.
But I think CNN may not. People may say, you know what, let that shit go down. We're going to start our own thing. I think really probably what we're going to see is you got Amazon and Jeff Bezos that owns Washington Post, right? I think he's going to go into the TV business. Right. I think that Bezos and a lot of his people are going to do something on TV as well. And when I say TV, it'll not only be TV, he will make it a hybrid, kind of like Fox is right now, where it will also be online. And probably over time, he will transition away from the TV cable and towards the online. Right. Because that's just the way everything's going. And again, a lot of it is because you can just tell the difference between watching Fox News and looking at like an Instagram influencer. Yeah, for sure. They're very, very different kinds of people. That's what Amazon will probably have to kind of do. Is hire a bunch of Instagram influencers, because you got to think, these people that are Instagram influencers are not highly ideological. They're very charismatic. That's really all they are. They're, for lack of a better term, they're pretty people that have good people skills and are highly charismatic. And if Bezos, for example, can hire them and give them a script basically and say, okay, here's a script, but put your own spin on it. Right. That would work. Again, young people will buy that more than they will buy CNN or Fox News or MSNBC. And see, the danger there is Bezos is not our friend, so that would be an issue. That would lead a lot of people astray, probably. Yeah, 100%. So there would need to be a right-wing version of that, some rich, billionaire preferably, who's very conservative, that also funds a right-wing version of that. Yeah. And that'll be very interesting to see as far as the future of new media. So I wanted to talk to you about that.
And there was something I wanted to bring up, kind of switching topics, is like, all right, so, my brother Bryson, he said New York PD workers have been asked to work overtime due to potential civil unrest. What do you think happens as far as, you think that's a normal protocol? Or you think that's, all right, Trump wins, people flip out. Harris wins, people flip out. Well, specifically in New York.
The thing about it is,
also they're putting barricades up in Washington.
If Harris wins and people flip out, it'll not be the right; it'll be the left pretending to be on the right. Right. They'll put on the MAGA hats and pretend to be something they're not. Right. There will be some crazies that do crazy stuff.
Yeah, of
but
course. There's going to be some pissed
that's
off people. Yeah.
par for the course. You
Right.
know, weird people do weird stuff. Crazy people do crazy stuff.
Of course.
No matter their politics.
100%.
But the majority of the people that get violent, it'll be like
Not calling for any of
you
this. by the way.
said no. We disavow. we of course disavow all that.
Yeah.
You said something earlier. I think you said it about for example, if a certain sports team wins, the fans can go nuts and do bad stuff.
Right.
Even though their team won, it's kind of bizarre. You would think that they would do that if they
Philly
lose.
fans are great for doing that.
Yeah, right. You would think that if they lose, they would get mad, but if they win, they would just go home quietly. No, they will go out
around their city.
Do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I do think that there'll be an aspect of that if Harris wins, that there will be some, or at least if the media declares that she wins, there will be some crazies that go out and do that. If Trump wins, that's absolutely going to happen. So in terms of that, I will say, so I say definitely in terms of, I think it'll look a lot like 2016.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be worse than 2016 per se. It might be. There's a lot of political tension. So you could probably argue me into that. I would probably agree with you. But I would just say, in terms of that, there's going to be some people that are ticked off and just are going to go home with their tail between their legs because they're going to know, well, we told people that Trump wouldn't win and he won. And so, yeah, there will be some people undoubtedly that get violent, but a lot of them are just going to get mad and go on Twitter. Really, they're going to get on Reddit, get on Twitter, get on Instagram, and just basically melt down. And yeah, they'll be loud, but they're not going to actually do anything, whereas some people will do something.
Right.
Unfortunately. Which to me is a foregone conclusion. So yeah, I would say that yes, there are going to be people doing bad things.
Right. The
question is at what scale. Maybe you and I would differ a little bit on that, but can, like I say, I'm malleable on at what scale.
Yeah. And as far as like just I don't think so. If Kamala wins, I don't think anything's going to happen. Because of what happened during J6.
Okay.
People and yes, there's going to be pissed off people.
Sure.
But there's not going to be anybody rallying because there's no reason to, for one, to rally in Washington, D.C. like there was,
right?
In the first place. That one doesn't have that up.
Yeah, that's Associated Press.
Oh, okay, I got you. Sorry, off track. But
squirrel.
Yeah, squirrel. Yeah. But no, so there's no reason to like rally in anywhere. Essentially, because Trump's not there, Sure. So I don't think if Kamala wins, there's going to be at least right away or tomorrow or another J6th, right? Like there might be when she becomes president and she starts doing something, there might be some stuff because of political tension.
This is highly contingent also on what the victory looks like.
Right, exactly. So that's also a discussion too. But however, on the side of if Trump wins, I 100% see something happening
that night,
tonight, tomorrow, day, whatever the heck happens. The second it starts to look like, holy smokes, these battleground states are going to Trump, oh man, Georgia, oh man, North Carolina, there's not a lot left, oh man, Arizona, some, I think wow, all we got is Pennsylvania left and Michigan. The second that's where we might start seeing. I do see. I mean, because it's the left's language.
Sure.
The protest side. That's the violent protest is the left language.
Riots are the language of the unheard.
Right.
That kind of crap.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's full word. Word for word, right there. So I mean, no, and where does it say in the Constitution that you have to protests have to be peaceful? It literally. Anyway, do you read
First Amendment?
Anyway,
peacefully assemble.
Right, peacefully assemble. It's right there. But anyway, no. So I do see what 2016 is when we had those protests and everything.
Yeah, against Trump. When
Trump
won,
yeah. So I see that happening again personally. If Trump wins,
I do too.
If Harris wins, I don't see anything happening. I see people trying to start something, but nothing comes of it.
Be as much,
right? Because I think people are smarter than that. It's like, oh wow, look what they did to us, or made us look like in for J6. I hate to bring that up.
So you think that basically, if Harris wins, a lot of the right wingers are going to basically just go home and say, "We're not falling for that one again.
We're not falling for that. We're pissed off, but we're in the house and we're gonna we're." I think something comes later because it's all right, now the tension. So the tension's high and here, but when she becomes so now she wins. Tensions over here, just
Right. So
stretch.
it's boiling below the surface.
And all she's got to do once she gets in the presidency, snip and boom, then something goes off.
Yeah,
so I
so
see
once
something
she's-
going off later.
Yeah, so basically it's boiling below the surface at first, but then when she's actually getting ready to be sworn in, that's when things actually start getting worse.
Right.
I see. As far as political tensions.
Exactly.
Yeah, and as we said, we would of course denounce all political violence. That's just wrong. But we're speculating about the possible future of will people do it, and they shouldn't.
Right.
Will they?
100%.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think that if Harris wins, it's and again, it depends on what it looks like as well. If things look like this was stolen, kind of like the last election in 2020, depends. It also depends on a lot of other stuff.
It's looking like, well, I'm not even. Arizona is still 49% in, so it doesn't really. But all states except for Virginia. And Nevada still apparently isn't counting right now. All states except for Virginia are in somewhat of a margin for Trump right now. So right now, Georgia, he's 3 points ahead. Let me double check that. Yeah, 51.
According to what I'm seeing from the Associated Press, Arizona is starting to turn pink.
Yeah,
so it's not looking as blue.
That's also what I'm seeing according to Fox
turning.
News here.
Kansas was called for Trump. I don't know if we already called that, but it looks like, according to the Associated Press, Kansas has been called for President Trump.
I think we had. Well, that
Let me
don't
see
think. 211. Who did they just call? They just called somebody. Trump got bumped up to 11, so he got somebody else. Wyoming.
Okay. So
no, not Wyoming.
Yeah, I'm sure just now on Associated Press anyway, he got Kansas. But...
Well, Fox News just called somebody.
Okay.
So give me a second. And it's not West Virginia, not Florida, it's not Utah. We already had Oklahoma. We had Montana. Hold on,
They're good.
I'll go to Fox News Instagram real quick.
Well,
Utah,
it is a
Montana.
very interesting night. Because according to this,
all right, who had 6 points?
So yeah, the Associated Press is calling that Trump is at 210 and Kamala Harris is 112. So depending on whether you're looking at the Associated Press or watching Fox News, there's going to be some variance here. But I've got the states that the Associated Press is calling for Trump scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Look it up, but that should be either. I think that's Iowa because Idaho would be ID, so it should be Iowa.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
So yeah, I can totally see that going for Trump because Iowa is a very conservative state.
That's 6 points.
Iowa is very conservative. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if.
Sorry, I don't know my abbreviation.
Yeah, IA. Yeah, IA is Iowa, so they've gone for Trump. Yeah, the Associated Press has called that.
So it looks like Fox News gave them
Iowa for Donald Trump. Sounds good.
Yeah, so
I'm not surprised by that at all. I mean, think about it. That's where Steve Deace is, and Steve Deace has a lot of pull in the Republican Party of Iowa, and he endorsed Trump, so that's not a particularly big surprise.
You're not a big fan of Steve Deace, right?
Not anymore. He made a video making some critical statements we can go into probably off air and maybe eventually in another episode on air. But he made some statements that I thought were in pretty bad faith, and so we'll talk about that at some point. But I'm just saying he has influence in his own state. For the same reason that, if we had his reach, we'd be a bigger influence in our state.
Oh yeah, no question.
And so he did. He I will say he was highly critical of Trump, and that wasn't the issue I had.
Right. I've been critical of Trump.
Exactly. And the way he did it overall, again, there's a very nuanced discussion there. But then he did come out and say, look, it's either going to be Trump, and at the time I think he's going to say it's going to be Trump or Biden. Yeah. And then when it was Harris, he said, look, it's one of the two, so we have to go with Trump.
Right.
I give him credit for that. That's good.
100%.
So it's going to be interesting to see because I will say we've only probably got another 15 before we need to wrap this stream up.
Yeah.
But right now it's kind of looking like other races we've seen where the Republican is ahead, where Trump's ahead. He's at 210 right now per the Associated Press, and Harris is at 112. So Trump at 210, Harris at 112. But there's been times where it's looked like one candidate has had a lead and then all of a sudden they're overtaken as we sleep. And
I don't know.
It's kind of a weird thing, It's the way that it is, but it's weird.
I don't want to be optimistic, but right now, at least, I don't know why they haven't called them yet. I guess because it's that tight. I mean, it is a pretty tight margin, but North Carolina and Georgia have 80+%. Georgia's at 88%. So Georgia we could see called pretty soon. And he's up 3 points in Georgia. There's only apparently 600-some thousand votes left. Now, if all those swung, there's plenty to act. Wow, that's really close then. Wow.
What do you guys think of the logo? I just changed it from black with red on the end to completely red.
I like that.
So, yeah, I think it looks cool. So let me know what you guys think. I want to hear it. But
you got 210, I got 211, by the way.
Yeah, well, it's Associate Press versus Fox News. That's interesting.
I got you.
Probably, I guess there's maybe one area that only has one. Or maybe, I don't know. That's interesting. Why it would be?
Doesn't one of those states like split 1 and 1 or something?
Well, there is one state, and we would need to look at it. That is it's not winner take all. Almost all the states of the country are winner take all. There is one state in the country. There might be two. I think there's only one where it actually will. It goes by district almost. So it's basically like if you win half the state, you get this many votes. But then if another candidate won the other half, they would win this many votes. All the other states, you have to either win South Carolina or you don't win South Carolina. That's just the way
that's how it should be, though, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it should be popular vote by state.
It's interesting. Yeah, I
electoral college for the whole country, but popular vote via state.
I see a lot of merits of both. Bryson says he likes it. He makes me think of breaking news. Nice. Okay, he seems to be a fan of the logo.
He's actually shockingly he used to hate politics. He's actually getting a little bit more into it now.
He's your brother. You probably won't shut up about it.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't. And then honestly, recently I started like shutting up about it, just like in general, because I was getting kind of tired of it myself. Like I don't
blame you. Everyone needs to have a break.
I have my opinion as far as like I'm the doomsday guy, I guess. So. I'm very active about it, but I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to be the doomsday guy. I'm still him, but I'm going to be quiet right now. So I kind of left it alone for a bit.
Sure.
But Trump's up 2.7% in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
61% of the vote counted though.
So
51.9 to 48.2.
9 and then 48.2. Okay.
Plenty of votes left to be counted in that one.
Yeah, there's a lot, and as you've noted, they're going very, very slowly.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising.
All these swing states, man, are going slowly. Why have they not given California yet? Like, can we just go ahead and give her California?
Well, I mean, we can do that mentally.
You can give her. You can give her. Well, go ahead. I mean, honestly, give her Washington, Oregon, and California right there. Yeah. So that's what 54 plus 8 plus 12. What is that?
That's a good bit, man. Hold on a second.
I'm not good at math.
No, me neither. So she's currently, according to the Associate Press, she's at 113. You said
I've got 117.
Okay, so we'll go with the higher number, 117 for her. And you said California is what, 54?
54
plus
8.
Okay.
Plus 12.
So if she does win the entire Western Seaboard, which is likely,
she's
going
to win the
190. She'll be at 191.
Okay,
so she's still below Trump at 210.
Right,
that certainly makes it a lot closer. But
give her Pennsylvania. Give her Pennsylvania with 19.
Okay, so she did win Pennsylvania. If Harris won Pennsylvania, she'd be almost tied with Trump. She'd be at 210. So yeah, if Harris wins the Western Coast and Pennsylvania,
Nevada.
What are you talking about?
Like who, Harris or Trump?
So in 2020, it was very competitive. That took a long time between Trump and Biden overall. Eventually, I think election night results were announced election night 2020. I'm trying to remember if it went for Biden. I believe that went for Biden. Yeah, it did. In fact, there was a lot of people that disputed that. In fact, there was one, it wasn't Fox. I think it might have been CNN that actually had to go back and remove Nevada, but then they ended up calling it again. But at the time, they said, you know what, it's actually too close.
Didn't they do that for Arizona? They did that for Arizona 4 years ago.
That might have
been. They just called Arizona. The Fox News was the first one to do it.
Yeah, Fox News was first.
Called Arizona. Said, wait a minute. Like, it wasn't even that
was Brett Baer.
Percentage. That was, wow.
Yeah, that was Brett Baer. Brett Baer had a good night when he interviewed Harris. He did a good job. But yeah, Baer is not really on our side. He's just kind of barely right of center.
Man, call Georgia already, man.
Well, there's probably stuff going on in Georgia that we can't go into because I don't want the stream taken down.
Another pipeline?
YouTube. Yeah, maybe.
No, I mean, it worries me in the sense of, look, I'm slowly becoming optimistic, but at the same time, I don't want to.
I understand.
Because of what happened in 2020. but I mean, he's up 2.9% in Georgia, with 89% of the vote counted.
So hold on a minute. Let me get those Georgia numbers. What are we showing in Georgia?
In Georgia,
Trump.
let me click on it real quick. No, don't go back. Thank you. 51.1% to 48.2.
Okay. So yeah, earlier.
And there's only like 543 something ballots left, according to the estimated.
How many?
I love how it says estimated because that means that we can find ballots.
Yeah, we can go find ballots, go find votes, and apparently they can. So yay for democracy!
Yeah,
hurrah.
right.
Hurrah for democracy!
Yeah, it was Iowa, so Iowa's projecting Trump wins battleground. Newsmax has North Carolina towards Trump.
Okay.
So
interesting.
And a couple places already
so
have
it's
Georgia.
Not been called, so Newsmax has not called it, but it's looking pink.
Projection, yeah. So Newsmax is projecting Trump. Let's see what Newsmax has projected thus far. Nothing except for that.
Monty says we know Pennsylvania won't be done for a week. I hope not.
Oh man,
I hope not. Ballot machine go burr.
Yeah. So North Carolina is looking in his favor for sure. North Carolina and Georgia are both looking in his favor, which is really good. Pennsylvania, only 64%, but I don't know why I'm talking like the Burger King foot lettuce guy, but he's at 50.7%. She's at 48.4%, with 64% of the vote in.
48.4. Okay.
I mean, so
Pennsylvania's narrow. Pennsylvania is very, very narrow.
Margin for cheating is
it's there.
It's there for sure.
Let's ask this question, and again, we don't have a whole lot of time left before we bid you guys adieu. What do you think is the likelihood of one or the other conceding?
Oh man, Trump's not going to. He still hasn't conceded the 2020 election,
of course.
So I don't see him conceding this one. Harris, I would say has to. Based off of
what do you guys think? Do you think Trump or Harris will concede to the other one? Go ahead.
I say Harris has to.
Why?
Based off of the.
Do you think she does, or do you think she wants to act all tough and be like?
I think she has to because. Hillary didn't concede.
Oh, she conceded.
She did.
So she conceded, but then she went on after the election. She said, "Oh, well, Russia stole it." But at the time, she conceded.
So, like, the left has made themselves of like, "Oh, well, we would have conceded. We would have done blah blah blah." It's like, and so they've been hounding Trump about you still haven't conceded the 2020 election,
right?
So therefore, I think that that she has to Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I think that she has to. So that's at least my point.
I think she's more likely than Trump to concede. I will say. I feel like she's gonna. There's people that give you an apology sometimes and say, "Well, I'm sorry that you took it the wrong way." That kind of crap. I feel like if she concedes, it'll be sort of a concession, but not really. She'll say, "Well, I recognize that." Per the news results, you got more votes, and then she'll probably, after the fact, kind of act like Clinton and say, "Well, Russia had a hand in the election," or something like that. To me, if Harris wins, no, I don't believe that Trump will concede. I don't see that. We have Monty with a comment says, I don't know if it's Manti or Monty. Man, sad. I missed seeing Nathan last time I was up there. Monty said, neither will concede, in my opinion. I understand that, Monty.
I could see it.
I could see neither one of them.
I know Trump won't.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. He's not going to concede it. The only way this man says, yes, I agree with the election is I won. Our elections are safe.
Safe. I've been declared the winner.
Exactly.
You're going to be sick and tired of winning Republican Party.
Right. Exactly. So that's that. I don't know, man. I could see her conceding. I could see her not.
Like I said, I think it'll be mealy mouthed. I think she'll kind of say it sort of, but then I do think, within weeks she'll start saying, "Oh, well, Russia did this," or so on.
Golly, man, 90% of the vote in Georgia 90% of the vote in Georgia has been counted, according to Fox News, and not
a result yet.
Not a result yet. This bothers me.
So Georgia, 90% of the vote is in. What are the numbers?
The numbers, we have like percentage.
Yes.
Okay,
please.
yeah. Percentage wise, we have 51.1%.
Okay,
Trump.
still, yeah.
And then 48.2.
It's still the same. Okay,
yeah, so
still, but it's 90% reporting in. That's held steady since you last updated.
So basically, it's like one vote, one vote, one vote, one vote.
Yeah, exactly. Now that can change.
There's only 538,797 votes left.
Bryson says, Trump, no way he concedes, but Kamala, I'm kind of hung up on, meaning I can see either happening. Maybe she would do sort of a thing where she is like, well, this, but then also that. Yeah, that's basically my mindset, Bryson. I'll agree with you on that. I could totally see that.
According to this, Trump just gained a vote.
Okay.
And Harris gained a couple. We got 119 to 112. I mean 212.
Yep.
I don't know who or what that would be though.
Yeah, it's probably some reason you probably can't see. It's probably because it's really, really small on the map.
Yeah. I'm thinking that's
some really small part of New England.
I think it's Maine.
Maine went.
I think Maine because look. So check out Maine.
Went for Harris or Trump?
I think it went for both. I think they have a section where I think Maine's that one state where they do.
Yeah, so it's not.
So he got like one part of Maine.
I got you. So it's not the winner take all.
And then she got 3.
Okay.
No, 2.
Okay.
What?
That's what you said, I think, before. Yeah.
Because see how there's a red dot.
Yeah.
But it's mostly blue.
Well, no, that's not.
Is that Maine? Maine, right?
Make sure. I believe so.
They'll update it on their what's called here in a minute.
I will find it for us. Sorry, guys. State abbreviations are hard. Yes, you're correct. Maine is ME.
Yeah, so I think it's Maine that kind of split.
Yeah, it looks like that's not winner take all. That depends on the part of Maine that you win. So,
right.
Okay.
So I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's affected the electoral college.
So it's only 212. Right now it's Trump 212.
For those of you just joining us, as we established earlier, even if Harris wins the entire West Coast, so that includes Oregon, California, and Washington, and if she gets Pennsylvania, she's still behind Trump. So even if she gets those, which are not, at least Pennsylvania is not a foregone conclusion. The West Coast,
as of right now, not in her favor.
That's a foregone conclusion. Yeah, it's hers to win. She will have to actually win it. There's a lot of hard work to be done in terms of the voters. I mean, she's got to actually have earned their vote for it to happen. So that's a big kind of insurmountable thing to pass. Well, ma'am, I know, guys, there's a lot more that we could say here, but we are now going to start the process of wrapping up. Nathan, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I still say Kamala Harris is going to win.
I understand.
Especially, again, Georgia's 90% in, and there's been no call. So there's ballots out there. Sure. I'm just saying, man. It's 2020 all over again before it's even happened yet. I'm telling you, you're going to go to bed. I don't know if you are, but we're going to go to bed, and all of a sudden something's going to jump. And statistics don't do that. But, in elections in America, they do. So I'm still doomsday here, and I'm going with Harris. Republicans for Harris. White dude for Harris. Let's go. Let's go. I definitely look like the white dude for Harris type. Like 100%.
No, you don't.
Like
they've given guys with long hair a bad name. There's men with long hair that are masculine. It's fine. I would say that I still think Trump has a good shot, and we will see what happens. I remain open-minded, but I still think that Trump's got a good chance to win this. And like I say, even if she gets all the West Coast and Pennsylvania, she still doesn't win yet. There's still more to be counted, and so we will see. This has been a great stream. I've enjoyed it a lot. I think that we did very well as far as the number of views. We did great
for sure.
So I will say, and a lot of comments, a lot of very good faith, positive comments, and we appreciate every single one of you out there for tuning in. To wrap up, you can find him pretty easily on Instagram. It's going to be in the body of the stream on Rumble and YouTube. So if you want to find our social media, just go to the body of the live stream on Rumble and YouTube. He's Celtics fan 33, and you can find my information as well. And on Instagram, we were able to stream for a little while on Instagram. It's zoo_nation_. Make sure, guys, if you haven't already subscribed on YouTube and Rumble, that you follow us on Rumble, subscribe on YouTube. Guys, thanks so much. And no matter what happens, we're going to be here doing this. We'll be covering the election results as well as we can, and we'll be back with an episode and talking about the results. So, guys, thanks so much for tuning into this live stream for the 2024 election. My name is Josh.
I'm Nathan, and just a little disclaimer, another part that you can follow me on Instagram if you are looking into physical fitness or anything of the sort, Elevate with Nate.
Yes.
That's my personal training page. Go check that one out too.
Yes, look up Elevate with Nate on Instagram as well. That's a good one to remember. I'm glad you thought of that.
Yep.
All right, guys. Everybody have a great evening. Take care. Trump 2024.